Hey, how's it going out there, folks? Welcome back here. It is the Earthmaster on this end of the microphone. Finally made it to a Friday. September 27th, 2024 is the date. 12:01 p.m. California time here is the local time. Back on the home front. Took me a little while to get back last night. I didn't get home till about 2 in the morning. Had a lot of traffic down there in Southern California. And just real quick, that video that I'm working on here, my results and my investigation here, will be published today. So kind of working on a lot of information. I was out there yesterday all across the Southern California area, mainly across the Rancho Palos Verdes area. Beautiful, absolutely stunning views down there across the area. Super nice homes, goodness. And a lot of good people down there, and they're dealing with a catastrophic event right now that could get worse across the area of the region, Portuguese Bend area, and a number of factors into this whole event that's going on down there. But anyway, I don't want to spend too much time on that. I will publish that video here today. Earthquake activity. One earthquake here, it looks like in the last hour. A couple actually in the last hour. 1.3, a little 0.6 as well. There's also one right on the San Andreas Fault here. I did not feel any earthquakes out there yesterday. Surprisingly, right after I left Malibu in the afternoon, there was a 1.9. Kind of checked out a couple areas out here and ate at one restaurant. Some beautiful scenery there on the base of the Santa Monica Mountains. Of course, that's a Malibu Coast Fault. There's actually some slide activity up here as well, very visible across many of the mountain ranges of the Santa Monica Mountains area. So as far as earthquake activity today goes, let's go ahead and see what we got for 2.5 and above. Just one earthquake here from yesterday, 2.7. This, let's see here. Yeah, this 2.7 followed a 3.8 that came in earlier yesterday morning. That is the area north of Ridgecrest here, northern end of this little swarming area. And this region has been swarming off and on with various other areas of Southern California down here. And they all tend to go through these little phases of quiet spell and then begin to kick up. We haven't had any elevated activity out here across the Los Angeles area or the Bakersfield area in a few days. And I'm talking about something that's actually felt. These little small 1.9, probably not going to be feeling that. I don't know. But this area around the Ridgecrest area is one of the regions that has seen an increased earthquake event, along with numerous other areas across Southern California, including Los Angeles, Bakersfield area, Malibu, Fontana area, numerous swarming areas over the last couple months. This has been a part of that sequence as well. But yesterday, this is the only area that's seen some elevated uptick here with that 3.8 and the more recent 2-pointer up there, 2.7. Still, that's from yesterday. Today's earthquake activity, a handful of earthquakes there in the 1 and maybe even a 2 range in that little cluster. As far as microquake activity goes in the Fontana area, a couple earthquakes here from yesterday, one from today. You know, it's hard to say how the day is going to go. Nobody's going to wake up and say, okay, today's going to be a very active day for earthquake activity. Just never know. It could happen. It might just be another couple days of quiet activity before things stir back up out here. Well, just got to watch it. 1.3 Borrego Springs area. A little clustering going on here across that interchange of various segments of the San Jacinto Fault Zone. No swarming going on down here around the Salton Sea area for now. What do we got over here? A little 1.9 from yesterday. Hawthorne, California. Whew, I don't know how you guys deal with that traffic. That's pretty crazy. Took us a little while to get down there yesterday and to get home, more so. Unfortunately, we hit rush hour traffic there yesterday, and goodness, you know, it almost pays. I don't know how safe it is, but it almost pays to be riding a motorcycle out there. A lot of lane splitting, and between the stuck traffic, it's pretty crazy. I don't know if I could see myself driving a motorcycle out there though. It's That in itself would be pretty dangerous. Indian Springs, a little 0.6 outside of Las Vegas area, where they had a little bit of swarming activity as well yesterday. Northern California, fairly quiet. The Bay Area, absolutely, really nothing going on, aside from a little bitty microquake here and there. Across the Pacific Northwest, still a little bit of activity out in the desert area of Washington. I guess there's some type of hazardous waste storage out here. Apparently unrelated to the earthquake swarm that's going on out here. 136 earthquakes in the last week. And that's about it. Yeah, most of the activity has occurred in the last week here. Nothing big, just a swarm of interesting activity. The largest at 2.9. Now, it didn't start off as a 2.9 with a bunch of little earthquakes following that. It's just been a swarm of various magnitudes, with the largest being a 2.9. Interesting activity. I know they got some smells of sulfur, I believe it is, outside the Portland area. A little uncertain onto what is causing that. I got to look a little bit more into it. My throat hurts today. I'm not for sure why, but a little bit of smog down there as well in Los Angeles, so it could have something to do with that. But aside from that, there's beautiful views down there across the area. Nothing going on across the Cascadia. Tremor activity. Go over here to the tremor. Still got my older maps here from when Helene was a just barely a baby hurricane. Now we'll get to the weather here in a little bit, but let's check out tremor here tonight or today. Get my marbles together. 389 epicenters of tremor, mostly centered here across the central coast of Oregon. Now, that's coming up on the number count over the last week here. You can see we're seeing that little rise here on the graph indicating daily tremor count for a total tally of about 1,700 epicenters of tremor in the last 7 days. And that's actually a fairly significant number here, and more so the importance of it. It's centered right around the area of the central coast of Oregon. This area right here, it's been a while since we've seen tremor fill in. We've been watching tremor fill in the southern end of California, or the Cascadia Subduction Zone, which would be Northern California here. And then also up here more recently, prior to this tremor event, up across the Seattle area northward into the Vancouver Island ranges, northern end of the Cascadia. So now we're starting to see various other areas fill in. And by filling in, I mean that these are slow slip events that take place down into the subduction zone. As the two plates, you got the North American plate right here, right? This is the start of the North American plate. It doesn't start here on the Oregon coast. It starts right here on the Cascadia Subduction Zone. Pacific plate, North American plate boundary is actually right here, opposite these lines. Now you got the Juan de Fuca plate right here as a whole. There's actually three little separate plates here, but we'll just call this the Juan de Fuca plate. And that is being subducted underneath the North American plate right here. The subduction zone begins right here at the Cascadia megathrust area, and they use that term. It's a major area for some large-scale megaquakes. We're talking the biggest earthquakes recorded on the world and on the planet. And these folds and whatnot are a sign of the strain that builds up out over the throughout time. The last 9-pointer was a pretty big one, and there's documentation of it, records of it. There's ghost forests out there. There's tsunami deposits that have been discovered well inland and dated. Also, not to mention tsunami stories there around the same time frame over in Japan, around the 1700 time frame. I can't remember the exact date. Sometime in January is when the last big earthquake struck there, 1700. So we're 324 years into building up towards the next big one out here. Now the tremor activity occurs down from the locked area, but underneath this area, more to the right here on this map where we're seeing the tremor. That's not occurring directly on the locked area. We don't get them on the locked area. That's why it's locked, because it's building up strain. But as you go deeper into the area of the slippage region, it's called slow slip event, then we get these tremor counts stirring up here. And they're not earthquakes. They're more or less a sign of the two plates slowly moving past each other. They're very low vibrational frequencies that are being picked up in terms of M energy. And this is the M energy over here. Very low grade. And it's not a sudden release of earthquake, a sudden release of pressure. It's basically just a slow movement between the two plates. And when that takes place, that obviously adds further strain up to the locked area. Makes sense, right? The strains, if you're pushing that plate here, the Juan de Fuca plate, further underneath this area, that's got to be, and you're getting some movement here with tremor, that has to be adding further strain upstream. So we're filling in the areas that have not seen any tremor activity here recently. We've seen a bunch. If we go back here, the past month just barely has a little bit of the activity there in the Washington area that we've seen. I'll show you guys real quick. Here's a little bit down south in the southern region of the Cascadia. This is our more notable event, starting to fill in, and it looks like it's working its way northward. It originally started with a decent swarm of tremor a couple months back here. That's all we've seen. We've seen a bunch of tremor activity at the southern end. It's worked its way up north a little bit to our current location, but prior to the event there in the central coast of Oregon, we had this big-time event up here across the Vancouver Island range, and that's towards the northern end of the Cascadia Subduction Zone. So if you look at, we can go back to, let's see here, stand by for a second. I'm going to go to May time period, May 1st, to that date. So it covers a few months out here. There's a tremor count throughout the year. June seeing a little bit of tremor. Our big event was back in August, and a little bit here in the beginning of September. Now we're starting to see another elevated event. But I want to show you guys the area, the map here. I think is fairly obvious where the subduction zone is and where the tremor takes place, right? That's a lot of tremor if you really think about it. 39,000 epicenters of tremor, and that's only since May. Cascadia Subduction Zone is one of the areas that is going to set us back a little ways out here. As far as infrastructure and our transportation services, and it's going to be a very damaging earthquake. Now, whether that's coming up in the near term or we still got another 100 years or so, who knows? Like I say, we can't accurately 100% predict earthquakes. Don't let anyone tell you that they can, because it's a little gimmick if you think about it. Like I could sit out here and say, and when we see these elevated swarms out here, like we've seen here over the last couple months, I believe the possibility of a larger quake that takes place is increasing during that event. But anyone can sit out here, regardless of knowledge of geology, and say Southern California is going to have a 2 or a 3.0 earthquake. 3.0s are actually somewhat common out here across California, so the chances of that are fairly high of seeing a 3-pointer. Someone could say California is going to have an earthquake here very soon in the next year, and what's that mean? It could mean that there's going to be a earthquake, microquake earthquake, or it could be a large earthquake. So the thought process here is that revolves around possibilities. I actually seen a really cool meteor last night. I caught on my GoPro camera heading home. I'll share that a little bit later as well. But we don't know 100% when an earthquake is going to take place here. We can't do it. So you have to look at little signs here that could be leading up to something bigger, like the swarming activity we've seen here all across Southern California recently, all encircling pretty much the San Andreas Fault. Nothing big has happened yet. Tremor activity is, definitely elevated here recently. across now pretty much the entire area. We're just filling in here around the central coast of Oregon here with our most recent tremor activity. No one knows when the big one's going to hit. The best thing to do is be prepared, folks. But I firmly believe tremor activity is the key into watching, and maybe in the forecast, maybe way in the future, forecasting when the next big earthquake pops up here across the Cascadia. With this data being used here, the tremor counts, we can keep track of all the information here over the years and see when there was maybe no tremor activity, or maybe leading up to a lot of tremor activity. Also some fractures going on out here across the divergent zones of the Blanco fracture zone and various other areas prior to the Cascadia. We look at all this data, put the tremor together, and say if the big one hits here tomorrow, then we have all of this data to go back and look at and maybe forecast when the next big one will happen in the future due to the circumstances that are taking place. Elevated tremor, you name it. That's why this data is always being recorded out here. It's very valuable. But right now, this tremor activity, we don't know exactly what happened prior to the 1700 earthquake. We don't know if there was maybe a couple fives out here, or maybe a couple fours up and down the Cascadia. I don't know. So this is the tremor, and we don't know about the tremor either. This is a fairly new event. Discovering the tremor activity that takes place down into the subduction zones. This ain't the only area that sees tremor across the globe. So not volcanic tremor, but tremor that takes place between the two plates there in the major subduction zone area. We just don't know when the next big one's going to happen. It's elevated right now, but as you can see here, we've had elevated events as well throughout the years. 2018, 2020, these little graphs here indicative of the daily tremor count. Little quiet period roughly from the end of 2022 to it started to kick back up here in when was that? Back in March, and then it really kicked up a little bit there in July. So we just have to watch it, folks. Monitor the data and then go from there. But as I've said here about California, elevated activity here over the last 7 weeks, 8 weeks now. We've seen that 5-pointer in Bakersfield, Malibu earthquake activity, swarms down around Fontana, swarms on the Puente Hills thrust fault that goes directly underneath downtown Los Angeles and extends over across the western areas of Hollywood Hills. A little newer activity down here near the Hawthorne area. This has just kind of been popping up out of the blue. 2.9 off the 1.1 off the coast, 2.9 here underneath this area, and that is associated with it might be the Newport Inglewood fault potentially, and that's the thing. There's so many fault systems out here that could potentially be overdue. And when we see a broad scale event like this that's taken place here over the last technically I would say 2 months here, more so than what we've seen over the previous years. I think Dr. Lucy Jones stated that it was since about, did she say 86? If I remember right. Either way, we've seen more earthquake activity out here this year, and more so recently in the last 2 months than we've seen at any time since the 80s. I don't remember exactly which year she mentioned. So things are on the uptick out here, and that is obvious, very obvious. This here is just the last 7 days and we really haven't seen a whole lot of interesting activity here in the last 7 days. It's been prior to that. But as you can see here, 395 earthquakes in the last 7 days out here of various magnitudes, including one right now underneath the Anaheim area, 1.5. See, it's just we're getting all these little areas filling in here, new areas. When these active regions appear to calm down a little bit, Bakersfield, Malibu, Puente Hills, thrust fault, then we start noticing other areas showing elevated activity. Garlock Fault Shear Zone up here, beautiful area. I was just down here across Fraser Park yesterday and on I-5, and goodness, beautiful mountainous areas, but if you didn't know what was going on, what created those mountains and the tectonic forces behind it all, that's a very dangerous area in terms of earthquake potential. Interchange right there with the San Andreas Fault. So 1.5 Los Angeles area, well, outside of Anaheim. I kind of consider this whole area Los Angeles as just one big giant city. Lots of good people down there. I'm not going to lie. I talked to a number of folks and a number of local folks there across the Palos Verdes area. And again, I'll get to that once my video gets going there on the discovery activity from yesterday. Where'd that go? Hello? Did you guys see that earthquake disappear? As I'm talking about it, it magically disappears. 1213. I wonder if it's... Yeah, they revised it. It was over here across the Anaheim area, right? Down over here. That's gone. Now, 1213. It could be a revised earthquake. 1.8 moved into a totally different location there around the Home Gardens area of California, outside of Corona. That's off the Elsinore Fault here. So, yeah, I just seen that disappear. But earthquake activity nonetheless. We just got to be prepared out here, folks, for the for some larger movement. It's been a little while. There's a lot that has gone on out here, and it's good to be on guard. I'm telling you, you don't want to be caught off guard when that earthquake hits. Montana area, a couple smaller earthquakes up there. Nothing going on through Yellowstone. Outside of Salt Lake City, a little bit of earthquake activity here, it looks like. And by the way, I will mention this here across the Palos Verdes area. I smelled sulfur out here, going up and down the one of the main highways here that is consistently being paved because of the continuous land movement. But yeah, I smelled sulfur for some reason. I don't know if it has something to do with the septic activity that's going on. Because of all that land movement, obviously there's pipes being busted. There's septics that are taking the hit as well. But yeah, when I was out here traveling, I smelt some sulfur out there. A little odd. All right, let's get back out of here real quick. And Texas area, some earthquake activity outside of Midland. We all know what's out there in Midland, right? It's a bunch of oil fields. People making a lot of money out there. And wastewater disposal ponds as well. Those little checkered boxes are a lot of activity out there across that region. Goodness. And that's where the earthquake activity is occurring today, it looks like. Well, that's not the ocean. We don't want to put the ocean there in Texas, right? Although, it once was part of the coastline. Can't remember exactly how far up it goes, but a little interesting event throughout time. I remember I was outside of Brady, Texas a couple years back, and just looking at a lot of the rock features out there away from town, where there really hasn't been a lot of development, and found a bunch of these sea marine fossils out there. So, obviously we know that this area has been at once covered in the ocean waters out there. It's pretty neat, though, discovering that well inland, away from the current coastline water level. New Madrid seismic zone, little 2.1 from yesterday. Nothing big going on there now. Last 24 hours of earthquake activity, with the largest being, let's see what we got here for largest activity. So far a 5.3, that's in the last 24 hours, but technically if you want to just count today, that's going to be a 5.2 down here across the Kermadec Trench. Fairly deep as well. Goodness, 221 miles deep into that major subduction zone area. Looks like a handful of earthquakes following that across the Vanuatu area right here. Some older movement quakes there from yesterday in the red circles. A lot of older quakes here from yesterday in the Philippines area, Indonesia Islands region. That area, where was that 6-pointer at yesterday? That was out here across the Indian Ocean. That was a little odd. 6.3, that's a fairly large event out here. Across the Marie Celeste fracture zone. Prior to that, 1 hour is a 5.4. Now, this area can get some earthquakes. Obviously, if you look here on the map, there's been a number of earthquakes. But a 6.3, that's fairly decent in terms of the magnitude there. A little fracture area. Divergent zone. Divergent boundaries out here as well. It's kind of unzipping like a zipper out here. You can see the fracture. Of course, that's over time. If that happened, in quick time, sped up time, that wouldn't be good. But slowly and surely creating new land out here. Oceanic land, that is. Oceanic flooring. There we go. That's a word I'm kind of looking for. All right. Let me zoom in here and see what we got. That's a lot of earthquake activity here in this region. I guess it's split between yesterday and today. A lot of this here definitely from yesterday. Not a whole lot going down there across New Zealand area. Looks like mainly some 3s out there, which has been the common number recently. South America, a little bit of uptick here going on across the Peru-Chile Trench following another 5.1 here yesterday into the East Chile Rise out here. Chile Rise region around the Valdivia fracture zone, 5.1. Now, normally when earthquake activity strikes out here across these fracture zones, we get elevated activity here across the Peru-Chile Trench. Fracture zone sits down here across the Nazca Plate and the Antarctica Plate here, right about in this region. Notice the general pressure gradient here pointing to the east, pointing to the right here across the South America area, which is the subduction zone of the Peru-Chile Trench. And following that event from yesterday, 4.3, 4.3, 4.3, all here centered around the center portion of the Peru-Chile Trench, but elevated activity nonetheless. And a handful of smaller quakes as well, a little bit further down south. Nothing big, but it has been active across this area fairly recently. And it's capable of producing some mega quakes. We all know that. The 9.5 earthquake, largest ever recorded, at least in our most recent history. Struck back in 1961, if I remember right. I wasn't alive back then, but as far as my memory goes, a little bit cloudy today from the drive, but I'll recover. Some more activity across the area of the Atlantic Ocean. That's one area. The Atlantic's actually been pretty quiet. It really has. It's a little odd. But in the last 24 hours, there's the activity here today. Normally, we'll see some 5s and 6s out here, but it seems like over the past few months, it's been awfully quiet across this area. Greenland area seen a little 4.4. Had a little 4.4 late last night here. Into the eastern Greenland area. A little odd earthquake away from the plate boundary. Middle America Trench earthquake activity here. 5.1 from yesterday. Let's see what we got for the Puerto Rico Trench region. Fairly older quake activity out here for now. So active, right? Obviously, last 24 hours of earthquake activity active, but not not anything big, right? Just more of a broader scale event of elevated earthquake activity across various regions here. So we'll continue to watch areas around California. Of course, it's like I just mentioned, it's a little quiet right now. Some earthquake activity, but the ones that have been being felt recently, the upper 3s and 4s, and then that 5.2 in Bakersfield, or outside of Bakersfield here recently. We went right over this area yesterday twice. Beautiful. Going through these mountain ranges and seeing how the tectonic forces out here have formed the land. It's crazy. All right, space weather. Let's check this here real quick. What do we got? Not a whole lot happening right now. There's the active region coming around the eastern limb here that I've been waiting for. It hadn't popped up yesterday, but it looks like it's there now. 3839, newly assigned sunspot 3839. Number of these sunspots have visited the Earth-facing side of the sun already. Last time it was out here, it was a different sunspot name. They've since gone back around the far side of the sun. I don't know. These could be ones from months ago. They really... They tend to dissipate a little bit and then reform, and then even though they go back around the far side of the sun and they're still there with the former sunspot number, they get renamed as they come back around the bend on the Earth-facing side of the sun. So I don't know how many times these sunspots have come and gone. It gives me a headache thinking about it, but these sunspots were out here a few weeks back. Now, the main area I think right now is going to be this region. It's a fairly broad, active area. A little bit of complexity going on here. Can't really see what is going on across this extreme far eastern edge of that sunspot, but it looks active. Flare threat, even though the flare threat has gone down a little bit to 15% chance for X-flare, I think once this gets into a little bit better position here, we'll see that really pop back up here in terms of flare potential. And what's weird is this area had that same potential, and then it just kind of degraded away. So hopefully this one doesn't do the same thing. I mean, it's got the potential there. It looks like it's flaring right now with some C-flare activity, it looks like. So we'll watch it as it comes around, gets into a little bit better Earth-directed view. Right now, 15% chance for X-flare, C-flare, or C-flare 99, M-flare at 60% chance. No major roars in the forecast, and the perfect time for the train to go through. I don't even know if you can hear it with this microphone. I got one of the noise-canceling microphones here, so hopefully it blocks it out. Storm Prediction Center. We got the remnants here of Helene. Goodness, Category 4, right? 140 mile per hour sustained winds as it made landfall down here in Florida yesterday. That is crazy. Now most of the activity, the convection band here across the eastern area of the circulation. 10% chance for some tornado activity there today, folks. Big deal out there across this area. There was a couple tornadoes overnight and yesterday. So no joke. I believe there's a tornado watch out here across this area. Wilmington, North Carolina, Greenville, heads up. Also 5% and 2% extending further up north. So keep your eye on the sky. Not a whole lot of thunderstorm wind damage. Hail, not so much. Just mainly some rotating storms out there. So heads up. Let's see what we got here for the current. There is the remnants of Helene. Let's see what we got here for the current activity. It is currently a tropical depression, Helene, bringing with it, a lot of rainfall, a lot of headaches today, I guess, as we head towards the weekend. I guess it's just going to sit out here a little bit, interact with the low pressure that's here, and kind of just dissipate over this area. Most of the time, these hurricanes get caught up in the air pattern, jet stream, and push further to the east, away from land. But it's interacting with the low pressure here, and kind of dancing around. We're not. Not really expecting it to go anywhere, it looks like. Just going to sit here and dissipate over the next couple days. There's concern there, obviously, is some flash flooding in the area. And what do we got for wind speeds right now? Maximum sustained winds 35 miles per hour here. So moving off to the north-northwest at about 28 miles per hour. Again, it's getting caught up with a low pressure system that's over there. I believe to the southwest here of it, there was a low pressure out over here. Looks like it's intermingling with it. So anyway, that's going to sit there and spin off and dissipate directly over the area. Like I say, we don't normally see that. Normally it gets drifted off quickly, does its damage, and then takes off. Here it's going to sit and linger for a little bit. And I think someone over there in Tennessee mentioned that they need rain out there. So you're going to get a little bit of rain out around the Tennessee area, that's for sure. A lot of rain, a lot of flooding out there as well. So unfortunately, there were some people getting hurt as well through the tornado activity last night and storm surge and whatnot. So definitely came in pretty strong there as a Category 4. It is weakening, but it's still, obviously it's pretty much done as far as its strengthening goes. There's not much left of it, but it's going to leave behind some rainfall, a lot of rainfall and some headaches out there. Of course, that severe weather potential as noted as well. So as we put this into the forecast, let's see what else we got out here. Oh man, potentially we got to watch out as well. Some type of tropical system here as we head into the first week of October. Now, Helene here had been on the radar or the model forecasting map for a little while. That's why I like to check this. Sometimes they come to play, sometimes they don't. But with Helene, it had forecasted it a couple weeks out in advance that there was some type of tropical system coming in here. First, it was showing hitting Texas, Louisiana, and then eventually it caught on to a pattern there of consistency right around the Florida panhandle. But that's the thing with these models here. It gives us a good indicator of potentially what could be coming. So maybe some type of another tropical system here across Louisiana as we head towards the 4th and 5th of October. We'll have to watch that. But the models are hinting at something. And then let's see what we got. Oh, man. I am not happy to be back. I mean, I guess I am happy to be home here a little bit. But the weather was so nice down there along the coastline in Southern California. I think it was about 70 degrees. Malibu was 68. But around the Rancho Palos Verdes area was about 69, 70, 71, somewhere around there. It was beautiful. T-shirt weather. And it was nice. Up here, not so nice. It's supposed to cook. It's supposed to be in the low 100s here as we head into next week. And I'm not happy about that at all. 103, 104 degrees. Come on, it's supposed to be fall, right? But here in Northern California, Sacramento Valley, it's like a giant death valley out here. I'm not even joking. Here's our massive high pressure that's going to build in right over my neck of the woods here, maybe just a little bit north into Oregon, bringing with it hot and dry conditions. A little taste of fall coming in there for the Great Lakes area, it looks like. Look at that blue, indicative there of below normal average temperatures. We're going to bake out here for a little bit. Might as well just break out the pool again. Put some more chlorine in there and go for a swim because man, look at that. Even into mid-October. Goodness, good grief. As you can tell, I'm a cool weather type of guy. I do not like this heat. Many factors at play. I just don't like it. All right, real quick, any close asteroids out here? It's pretty cool catching that meteor last night. Like I say, I always keep my GoPro running 24/7, regardless. I'm one of those guys that always has a camera in my hand. In fact, in my personal car here, I have a camera front and back, just for not only liability and insurance purposes, but to catch cool stuff like meteors and stuff shooting through the sky, or maybe who knows what. But I gotta upload that, and I'll post it up here on the channel a little bit later. Nothing major coming in for now, folks. 34-foot bus size asteroid coming in today, but fairly safe. 555,000 miles away from the planet. All right, aside from that, folks, seismograph stations out here look pretty quiet and clear. Getting back to the video that I'm going to be posting here today. A lot of the video and information that I shot is going to be on my phone, so I'm thinking I'll probably I might do a live update on it and record it and then publish that live update, such as I'm doing right now with this earthquake update video. I might publish the findings there across the area. There's a lot of information to discuss here on it, and a lot of information that I found out yesterday here from locals. And it's a sad situation out here, and they're trying to stop it. They're trying to stop the landslide activity from continuing. It's advancing across the region here. It's just getting worse. And there's some absolutely stunning, beautiful homes up there. And I can see why someone would want to live up here. The views of the Pacific up on these hill range are awesome. Way awesome. But for one, I could never afford living down here. And then two, it's just, a lot of people. But this area is absolutely beautiful. And they're dealing with some issues right now. And I'll cover that here in my video, folks. Like I say, I may do a live update. I need to do a couple voiceovers on it, and I just want to present it in a professional fashion here for the viewers, because a lot of people want to know what's going on, what is expected here, and it's just I'll get to it today for sure. We'll definitely, like I say, either an update or I'll do a voiceover and put together information here on my phone as a video and then upload that. I don't know yet. I'm still trying to wake up. Like I say, I only got a few hours of sleep last night. Long, extensive drive. And I literally could probably go back to bed if I wanted to, but I do have school stuff I got to do real quick and then go from there. But stay safe, folks. One earthquake out here on the Brawley seismic zone, the extensional boundary here of the plate of the San Andreas Fault, 1.3. Not a big earthquake, but it's just be on guard, folks. We'll catch you guys out here a little bit later, and watch for that video. I will be probably doing an extensive chat on that area down here, along with documentations here, video and photos that I acquired yesterday. I'll catch you guys out here a little bit later.